two key offensive targets have already officially left, the Dolphins continue to refuse to invest aggressively, and rumors are growing that management may be preparing for a completely different direction than fans expected for 2026. Some within the organization believe patience is the best option. Others think Miami is quietly wasting another season before it even begins. And what I'm about to tell you today might completely change your view of the roster going forward. But before we continue, don't forget to like this post if you still believe the Miami Dolphins can surprise the entire NFL this season. And I want to see the true optimists in the comments today. Comment now, I still believe in the Dolphins. Let's see how many loyal fans are still supporting this team, no matter what happens. Because, Dolphins fans, the news that just came out is creating far more tension around the franchise than people expected. Because what I'm about to tell you will definitely divide this fan base. The Dolphins reportedly had interest in Njoku, and there were conversations happening internally about the possibility of bringing him in. But the reality is Miami simply could not compete financially with what the Chargers offered. The deal can reach up to $8 million, and considering the Dolphins' current cap situation before June 2nd, it became increasingly unrealistic. Now here's where things get interesting. This was not just about adding another name to the roster. Njoku brought a skill set Miami currently does not have. The Dolphins already possess blocking tight ends like Will Kazmir and Ben Sims, while Greg Dulcich projects more as a receiving option. The problem is that Dulcich still remains more projection than proven production. There's optimism he can become a 500 to 600 yard player over a full season, but fans know optimism does not win football games in January. That is exactly why many people inside the Dolphins community viewed Njoku as such an ideal fit. He could have become that reliable third down target, the red zone mismatch, the security blanket for Malik Willis when defenses collapse the pocket. We already saw how effective that role can be in this offense when Jonnu Smith exploded statistically during the 2024 season with 88 catches and 884 receiving yards. The Dolphins know how dangerous this scheme becomes when the tight end position is functioning at a high level. And honestly, the Chargers situation makes perfect sense for Njoku too. Mike McDaniel knows exactly how to utilize athletic tight ends, and pairing Njoku with Justin Herbert immediately gives Los Angeles another dangerous offensive dimension. That's what makes this sting even more for Miami fans. Not only did the Dolphins lose out on the player, but they lost him to a situation where he could absolutely thrive. But wait, this wasn't the only painful miss. Jawan Jennings also signed elsewhere, agreeing to a contract with the Minnesota Vikings worth up to $13 million. That was another player many Dolphins supporters believed would fit perfectly into this offense. Tough, reliable, physical, dependable on third down, and respected in the locker room. Miami simply got priced out again. And now the biggest question becomes unavoidable. What exactly is the Dolphins' plan? Because if you look at this offseason carefully, Miami has been operating extremely cautiously financially. Most veteran additions have basically been low-cost deals. This front office clearly does not want to spend aggressively right now. Some fans understand it. Others are furious. There's a growing feeling among sections of the fan base that the organization is trying to reset quietly while still pretending to compete. Meanwhile, the roster still has glaring holes. Edge rusher remains a massive concern. Safety depth looks shaky. Wide receiver still lacks certainty beyond the top names. Tight end remains incomplete. And now Miami is watching target after target disappear from the market. One name that continues to float around internally is A.J. Epineza. The Dolphins reportedly already hosted him before the NFL draft, and if his medical evaluations check out, there's belief Miami could revisit those conversations. He would immediately bring something the current edge room lacks: size, physicality, and stronger run defense. That matters because right now the Dolphins are asking a tremendous amount from Chop Robinson heading into another critical season. There's also quiet discussion around Rasul Douglas potentially making sense because of his previous relationships with members of Miami's coaching staff. But again, everything comes back to one issue: how aggressive is this front office actually willing to be? And this is where the fan base is becoming divided. Some supporters love the cautious approach and believe John Eric Sullivan is building patiently for the future. Others miss the aggressive mentality Miami once had under Chris Grier. Some fans think avoiding expensive veterans is smart roster management. Others think the Dolphins are wasting another year of opportunity by refusing to push harder. But here's the part nobody can ignore anymore. If the Dolphins truly believe Malik Willis could become their future, then failing to surround him with enough help could completely damage his development before it even begins. What makes this entire situation even more controversial is that the Dolphins are not exactly acting like a team desperate to win immediately. and fans are starting to notice it more every single week. When you miss out on players like David Njoku and Jawan Jennings, eventually people stop calling it bad luck and start questioning the organization's priorities. Because think about this carefully, Dolphins fans. Miami knows exactly what its weaknesses are. This front office understands the offense needs reliable veterans. They know Malik Willis needs support. They know the tight end room still lacks a complete proven weapon. And yet, every move this offseason has screamed caution instead of urgency. Now, some people inside the fan base are okay with that approach. They believe 2026 is more about development than contention. They think the Dolphins should protect future cap flexibility, evaluate young talent, and avoid expensive contracts for aging veterans. And honestly, there's logic behind that argument. But there's another side to this debate that is getting louder. A lot of fans are asking, how do you properly evaluate a young quarterback if you refuse to give him enough weapons? That's the biggest concern surrounding Malik Willis right now. If this offense struggles, will it truly be because Willis is not the answer? Or will it be because Miami failed to build the right environment around him? That's the uncomfortable conversation happening right now behind the scenes. And let's be real for a second. The Dolphins' offense already lost major firepower over the last couple seasons. Tyreek Hill's future became uncertain, the locker room dynamic changed dramatically, and now Miami is entering a completely different phase compared to the explosive offense fans became used to watching. That's why someone like Njoku made so much sense. He would not only help Malik Willis, but he would also stabilize the middle of the field. Defenses would have to respect him on third downs, inside the red zone, and in play-action situations. Miami could have leaned heavily into two tight end formations with Njoku and Greg Dulcich while still utilizing the blocking ability of Will Kazmir and Ben Sims. Instead, now the Dolphins are left hoping internal development solves everything. And hope alone is dangerous in the NFL. One thing I'm hearing more and more is that Miami may pivot heavily toward defense now that the offensive market has dried up. That could explain why names like A.J. Epineza and Rasul Douglas continue to stay connected to the Dolphins. The coaching staff clearly understands this defense needs reinforcements, especially at edge rusher. And honestly, the edge situation might be more serious than many fans realize. There's excitement around Chop Robinson, but Miami is asking him to carry enormous responsibility. Joshua Che projects more as a rotational edge player than a true number 2 pass rusher. Then you have rookies like Trey Moore, Mason Ryer, and Max Llewellyn who are talented but completely unproven at the NFL level. That's risky. Extremely risky. This is why A.J. Epineza feels like the most realistic remaining move. He fits the profile Miami appears to be targeting, experienced, versatile, and potentially affordable because of the medical concerns that slowed his market down. If the Dolphins can bring him in on a short-term prove-it deal, suddenly the edge room looks a lot more stable. But here's where things could get really fascinating. What if Miami intentionally avoided spending because they're preparing for something bigger later in the offseason? That theory is starting to circulate among fans. Some believe the Dolphins are waiting for post-June cap flexibility before making aggressive moves. Others think the front office is secretly monitoring potential trade situations around the league. And Dolphins fans know this franchise always seems connected to surprise rumors. The wildest part? There are still veteran receivers available, including familiar names like Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, and Deebo Samuel. Now, realistically, none of those scenarios feel likely right now. There are concerns about age, locker room fit, and financial expectations. But in the NFL, situations can change fast. One injury during training camp, one unexpected roster cut, one frustrated veteran wanting a fresh